We are united by Rice, where we talk about all things related to AA, NHPI, and entertainment, creative spaces, and beyond. I'm Junko Goda, one of your hosts.
And I'm Ben Lee. Nice to talk to you, Junko. I see
Hey,
the
Ben.
green vine. Either you've moved or
I
the green vine.
know.
Yeah, it's still kind
I
of.
think per episode, it'll maybe. Actually, it's doing pretty well. There's more leaves on it. I think realistically, it'll just be gone because I need to. I need to cut it down and redistribute it. It's doing pretty well though, but I'm just gonna
Yeah.
just make it look like I have vines attached to my head for now.
Yeah.
But aside from my plants in the background, you took a nice trip to South by Southwest.
I did. I had a little bit of a whirlwind few days. This is a weekend ago because I went to South by for really only 48 hours,
Mm.
packed in as much as I could, and then I flew back for the Oscars and was in the press room for the Oscars. I could talk about that experience a little bit. It's not very AAPI-ish this year, but
Mhm.
um, I can certainly talk about that. But yeah, no, I went to South by. So our guests today actually come from one of the movies that I watched called
Mm.
Brian, or the film name is Brian, and it stars a young actor that everybody probably will recognize now if you don't know his name, but Ben Wang, Wang. He was the most recent Karate Kid for those that saw Karate Kid Legends, and then Randall Park and Penelope Lee, or Peyton
There
Elizabeth Lee.
you go.
Yeah, Peyton Elizabeth Lee, who some may remember from it. It's probably like 3 years ago on Disney, but she was the second coming of the Doogie Howser uh,
Oh, right.
show, right? When they decided to
Mm-hmm.
cast as a female lead and based in Hawaii. So
Right.
a familiar face, at least for folks.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
definitely.
yeah. Now, have you been to a South by before?
No, I haven't. I haven't.
Yeah.
One of these days. One of these days. Yeah.
Well, it's always a fun vibe. I've been a few times. Obviously, the last couple of years, I've gone for the film festival more than the other pieces because it's film, it's music,
Music. Yeah.
and then somehow they fit in a tech conference.
Yeah, I'm not surprised with the tech, but I mean, with AI, I mean, it's such a big topic. Like, you can't not have a tech component to like anything these days.
Yeah, and to be honest, maybe the tech component is actually the biggest part of the meeting. I don't know, but
Conversation, yeah.
yeah, and I think this year I don't know all the details, and it's not that interesting, but I know that the conference is shorter this year.
Mm.
I think they tried to have all pieces run in parallel, whereas
Mm.
before it used to span over like 8, 9, 10 days, but they would have staggering starts. Um, and then I think the music festival, and this maybe feels like a little bit of a sad thing for Austin, but I think the music festival has actually gotten smaller.
Smaller.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
Austin used to be all about
Yeah,
music.
but all about music. Yeah, yeah. Which is yeah, it's sad, but it's also kind of a big question for musicians of like how do you get out there? Because at one point YouTube was working really well to discover like new artists, but then that's kind of gotten blanketed over because YouTube is just a search engine at the end of the day, and then like Spotify sucks for artists because you don't make it's like why do I want to be on a
Right.
platform like that? So it's really been hard, I think, for musicians to access an audience.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really know. It's part of a world that I don't study or know
I
that
know, me too.
well. But
I mean, other than the radio, and I don't,
yeah,
I used to listen to music on the radio a lot, but I actually listen to like more to like NPR, which has a music component, but probably not as much as when I would just be like channel surfing on my car radio, and you might hear something along the way. So yeah, it's definitely gotten harder.
yeah. Well, I was there for the film festival. Let's see, I jammed in, and actually, the South by, they don't. I would generally say they're not getting, the films that people are thinking are awards films, right? Like
Right.
you've got Cannes and Venice and Sundance for those type of films, and oftentimes they lean into the Austin weird kind of kind
Yeah.
of personality of the city, and you get a
Right.
lot.
Right. Like the culture. Yeah. The Austin culture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you get a lot of quirky comedies or a lot of horror
Exactly. Yeah.
type
Yeah.
of films, which is always fun. That said, I think last year the studio debuted. They also have
Mm,
TV and the studio debuted, and look at what the studio went on
yeah.
to do. I'm trying to
Yeah.
remember the films from last year. Accountant
But
2.
yeah. But then so like compared to last year,
Yeah.
did this year feel just more like an Austin curated vibe, or you saw
Um,
more mainstream stuff
Well,
like
again,
Accountant 2
I
or?
had to limit my picks to.
Mm,
I was only there the first couple of days, so first of all, that was a factor. Is some
mm,
if they weren't airing or if they didn't have their premiere or weren't showing, the 12th, 13th, or 14th of March, I couldn't have gone anyway.
mm,
Um, and then I think probably. I don't know. It's biased by what I wanted to see, right? And
yeah, that's true. Of
everybody.
course, of course.
Yeah, and as everybody knows, I'm gonna, look, are there any like heavily Asian-based films or Asian American films?
Mm-hmm.
So Brian is one I picked. Another film we'll talk about soon called Anima. Wasn't necessarily like had to be Asian, but definitely, our main cast is Asian. Our
Mm-hmm.
director half Asian, so there was elements of that film that I thought out. I mean, I can really go through my whole slate. I watched the TV big premiere was
Oh,
Margot's Got Money Problems. I think it's based on a very well-known book that I have not read,
oh,
but
yeah.
and it's a Apple TV show that
Mm-hmm.
stars Elle Fanning. I don't know how Elle Fanning has time. She's in everything,
right, right,
doing
right,
good
yeah.
work.
She
It
could have
stars
shot it like 3 years ago for all we know.
Yeah, but Elle Fanning, Michelle Pfeiffer plays her mother. They showed 3 episodes. It
Mm-hmm.
is delightful. My favorite guy, Ron Swanson, or also known as Nick Offerman, has a key character or plays a key character. So it's a good
Mm.
show.
Hmm.
I was happy to watch the 3 episodes there. I don't know that it will live up to the studio's success because it's a very different show.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
different, completely different audience.
yeah,
Completely. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
I think that show, yeah, the Michelle Pfeiffer show, I have been seeing the ads for it, but it's definitely like mid 40s and up.
yeah. And then I watched Anima, as I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned. I went to the premiere of Ready or Not 2.
Two. Ah,
Or
with
Ready or Not Here
Olivia's
I
in it.
Come 2. Yeah, Olivia, our
Yep.
friend Olivia.
Yep.
And she invited me to the after party as well. So I got, as
Nice.
close as I could to your Sarah Michelle Gellar's and met Sean Hatosi, who, for people that watch The Pit, is like the dreamy, like perfect doctor. Right, like he's the guy that um, he's Dr. Abbott, right? The one with the
Mm.
prosthetic leg who like
Is he new this season?
no, he has he so
Or was he from last season?
he's not in the same shift as like
Oh,
most of
okay,
the
okay.
cast, but he's the one that
Okay.
pops in because they just need more help and he
Yeah.
like in his spare time wants to just keep working. So
Yeah.
even in this season, he pops in like, "Oh yeah, I was out with the SWAT team like as their
Mm-hmm.
medical
Yeah, yeah.
backup," and then he pops in again just like heroically. He's like can't do anything wrong, but then in Ready or Not, he's like the most evil prick out there. So it's kind of like hard
Okay,
to
okay.
watch.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But yeah, so I watched Ready or Not. I watched, as I mentioned, Brian, which we're going to talk
Mm.
about now. And boy, what was the other? I know I watched a couple of other films. I
You
love,
need a running list.
yeah, I love Boosters.
Hmm,
Do I
okay.
have that name right? That's like a Kiki Palmer film. I think
Ah, okay.
that's going to also premiere at the San Francisco Film Fest. So I'll
Okay.
maybe talk about that in the future.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, definitely.
but yeah, Brian was you know, one that I like saw on
Mm.
the uh, list of films that was going to debut, and I saw Ben's name and Randall's name. It's like, okay, this is one I want to watch, and I'll do the log line very quickly. He's basically what do we say, neurodivergent kid, or he's got. They never talk specifically about what his mental health status is, but you could tell he's got something. He's easily triggered. He has episodes, especially under stress. They call them freakouts actually in the film. But he's playing a high school kid. He very much looks like a high school kid, and he's got a crush on his is it a science teacher? I can't remember. But
Mm-hmm.
basically a
Mm-hmm.
high school teacher crush, and he's kind of supported, but also surrounded by a cast of other high school kids who are interestingly they don't go the route of like making fun of him all the time. He
Mm.
is, they're supportive actually, or at least friendly. And I think,
Mature.
yeah, mature. And I think
Aware.
the film takes a very deliberate, and they all have their quirks too. So I think the
Mm.
film deliberately wants to show that diversity, and it's not a
Mm.
bullying type of film.
Now, Ben,
Um,
did you have a crush on a high school teacher when you were in high school?
ooh, I
Did that
don't.
strike a chord?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's funny you ask this question, right? Because you, it's as an older adult with kids that I
Yeah,
realize how young some high school teachers actually are,
actually are. Yeah, yeah.
right? And so frankly, quite reasonable, I think. Um, this is a long time, Junko, so I'm not, I can picture a couple of my high school teachers who, would I have said, "Oh yeah, she's pretty"? Maybe, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I ever had a crush on one.
Kind of long. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. How about
Huh.
you?
Oh, I went to an all-girls school, and I had one male teacher, and he was actually, I mean, I was lucky to have uh, a teacher who has a doctorate in history be my history teacher. But he was like he was already like a grandpa or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think he was the only male. I think maybe when I was like a senior, there was like a second male teacher, but that's about it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't attracted to any of my female teachers because they're all kind of, I think most of them were like moms
Hmm.
or like halfway to retiring, so no.
Yeah. No, I mean, I remember getting along. I was in journalism and high school newspaper editor, those type of things. I remember getting
Oh.
along with our high school teacher or our journalism teacher quite well. And I almost felt like she worked with us as a team because it was less of a class and more of a production. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
So
yeah,
even though she was like whatever you would call her, like the
yeah.
teacher, but also like the boss of the production.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember she left. Um, I can't remember why, but she left. She actually quit.
Hmm.
Like me and a couple of the others went to visit her, and it's like, hey, why'd you leave? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that wasn't a crush either. It was just very fond of one of the
Like,
teachers.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's probably the closest. Okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so anyway, the film, it's a comedy, but it's one of those like awkward teen comedies for the
I
most
mean, it
part. And
sounds like it has to be that way, or
yeah,
else it's gonna go really bad. Like you
yeah.
know, you have to
Well,
like celebrate the awkwardness, and that's really through comedy.
100%. And Ben, we've seen him now in films like Karate Kid. He was in American Born. No, no, no. He's not the.
No, 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 no. He was in the one with Mike Leonard's in it. Leonard was in it. Not American Born Chinese. There's American Born Chinese. Oh, I'm like, it's the one that was on Netflix and has Michelle in it, right?
Who's Michelle?
Him? Michelle Yeoh. American? No, it is American Born
Nate
Chinese.
is American Born Chinese. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And it was on Disney, actually, I think.
Oh, was it Disney? Oh my god, I
Yeah,
totally thought it was Netflix.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, so he was on that show, but he's been, he was on The Long Walk recently, which I haven't watched, but the kind of what do you call it? The kind of indie film that did really well. So, he's
Mm.
he's kind of, I talked about it with him a little bit. I mean, he's kind of the guy right now. Like he's getting a lot of the Asian roles or the Asian American
That
roles or
high
that like yeah,
school
exactly.
age in between, yeah.
Yeah, and he's very good at his craft. And so in this film, he has to play obviously, and somebody who's neurodivergent, but also it's very funny. And Randall Park is in this. He plays his dad, There was an interview recently with the both of them, and Randall knew nothing about his character, and Ben was trying to remind him, "Oh yeah, you did this for a living," and there's a hilarious dinner scene,
Mm,
and they're clearly just like improving, right?
mm,
And at the very end of it, one of Ben's friends, again, it's not very overt, but we kind of learn that he's probably gay or bisexual.
mm-hmm.
And then, so at the very end of the dinner conversation, Randall, in his very Randall Park way, just goes, "And I'm bisexual," and then cut. It's really funny. It made me laugh so much. So,
So
yeah,
this doesn't Brian does not have a distributor yet,
no,
correct?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Good.
So this is one of
That's
those
why folks,
films.
we'll
Yeah,
try not to spoil too much. Actually,
yeah.
it's mostly
So,
on you, Ben. You can't spoil too much.
yeah, so it's one of those films that we will clearly revisit once they get a distributor. I have no doubt they will.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hopefully to theater, but if not, streaming. It's very funny. Um, it's a very tight film too. Like it
Mm,
doesn't try to do too much. Basically, it just covers maybe a week period where a week long period where Brian, played by Ben, really decides like I'm going to run for high school president, and it's just about that experience and
yeah.
ultimately what that experience means to his confidence and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
ability to be accepted. And so it's
Oh,
again a
sounds
sweet
good.
coming of age
Yeah. Yeah.
film.
I'm
Not
excited. Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully, we'll be able to see it soon.
Yeah, yeah, and to be clear, nothing explicitly Asian American about it. Other than being able to tap into kids that maybe don't feel like they're seen as the coolest kids, right? But there's,
Mm,
it really could have been anybody, and I think
yeah. Yeah.
Ben and Randall make a point of talking about that in their interviews. So they're both delightful, Randall and Ben, and then as I mentioned,
Oh yeah.
Peyton Elizabeth Lee. She has a much smaller role,
Mm-hmm.
um, but again, I would say a fairly developed role in terms of not just being your mean, high school girl and teasing
Mm,
him, but because she very well could have started or gone that route, but
mm-hmm.
well, there's just more nuance than that. So.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Again, we always
Cool.
want to be careful because we know no one has seen this film yet, and we'll talk about it more in the future. But
Yeah.
hopefully, people enjoy these
Definitely.
interviews. Um,
So this is a triple header
a triple
episode.
header. We're going to play them one, two, three. They're pretty quick interviews, probably about 10 minutes each. So,
It's
yeah,
okay. Cool.
yeah. And then
Yeah.
Junko, anything else going on in LA? I know it's been super hot, right?
Yeah. We're just coming out of a heat wave. I live a little bit south of LA proper, so it's always cooler here. But yeah, I was just like laying low. Like I had to like this is just everyday stupid shit. But I'm like I had to get on my landscaping, but it was so hot that I'm like, no, I'm
Yeah,
just staying inside. No. And now that it's cooler this week, I'm like, okay, like chiseling away at the weeds.
yeah,
Okay. Fun stuff.
yeah.
But yeah, otherwise, no, nothing earth-shattering has happened here or anything. LA is still here.
And we don't really do Oscars, breakdowns or stuff on this pod. But Did you
Okay,
watch
but
it? Did you enjoy it? Any
I
takeaways?
actually, I ended up just like recording it, and then I went back, and then I kind of just cherry picked the things I wanted to see,
Mm,
which was definitely like, the Sinner's performance,
mm,
Golden's onstage performance. Um, Although I should say though, if anyone out there, what does happen in LA leading, like the week leading up to the Oscars, is there's a whole bunch of Oscars programming, especially because we have the Academy Museum now. So I did go and so all the nominee sections, they all get their kind of spotlight at the museum where they have panels for each of the nominee sections. So I went to the hair and makeup one, which was really fun and tight. Like there's a lot of nominees, but the programming ended within 90 minutes.
mm,
And actually, there were a couple like special guests, like Guillermo del Toro was there because
mm.
Frankenstein
Sure.
was nominated, ended up winning.
Yeah.
Um, as well as the actor who plays Doughboy from Sinners. He's the guy in the overalls who stood at the door.
Oh
He was
yeah,
the doorkeeper, so to speak, the
yeah.
gatekeeper.
I know who you're talking
Um,
about. Blanking on
yeah,
his. Yeah.
yes. The actor who played Doughboy was there, which was fun. So fun and unexpected for the audience. So, and it's actually held in the upper Geffen Theater, so nice and big. So if anyone is ever like bored and they're like interested, there's actually like a lot of programming, a lot to do around Oscars week. So that's
Sure.
actually, I think it's starting to kind of maybe be a more of a notorious thing where people will, you might not go to the Oscars themselves, you might go to a viewing party, but you could go to the museum. There's so much programming and a lot of opportunities to meet these nominees. And actually, what was the nice thing is that after the panel in the first floor, which is open to the public, they actually had just tables and stations set up with different hair, makeup, actual objects from the films that people can look at, and then people also had the opportunity to speak to the nominees there too. So yeah, it's actually I like the like the programming, and then it's so accessible. The parking kind of sucks, and the traffic around the museum area unexpectedly to me was kind of
What are you talking about?
backing up.
Yeah.
I know traffic, horrible parking. No, but yeah, that was a little unexpected. I have to adjust my expectations during
Do
those
you,
panels.
for these events, is it because you're part of a guild, or is it are you a member of the Academy Museum?
Oh no, actually, I have been sign up for a membership, but these are all programs like that are open to the public.
Mm.
I think it was like if you're a non-member, it's like $10, and if you're a member, it's like either free or $5. I think it's just to show that you're going to show up, but like if you don't show up, at least the museum gets some money,
Sure.
kind of a thing. So yeah, it's all open to the public.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it's a lot of fun.
I think it underscores like that all of that is happening as a showcase because of their the Oscar voting was probably already done by then and whatnot, but
Oh
it
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
shows how like all the way basically it starts like in September or so, like the
Yeah.
award season is just nonstop and
Actually, in
amount
my head, it starts in August. In my head.
campaigning, the events, these type of things that you're talking about, whether they're at the Academy Museum or different locations. I think I was reading that EJ from K-pop Demon Hunters only had, I think 8 or 12 days, something like that, off between like August and the Oscars,
Yeah,
based on
yeah,
all
sounds
the
about
different
right.
appearances that they're making.
Yeah,
Obviously, they're probably a little bit even bigger than they weren't just doing awards focused stuff because they were. Well,
and
I
the
guess
Grammys, and I mean, they were in so many
yeah, yeah.
different buckets.
Categories, yeah,
Yeah,
nation, everything. So
yeah.
it is crazy, but people are very generous with their time. So I do enjoy going to those type of things. All right, so I think we'll play in order. We'll play Ben, then Randall, and then Peyton Elizabeth,
All right,
and we'll kind of
triple
go.
header, folks.
Yeah, so triple header. Enjoy and good to see you, Junko. We will
Nice
talk.
to you, Ben.
All right, cheers.
Hello, Ben.
Hi. Hey,
I'm
Ben.
Ben. Ben,
Nice to
Ben.
talk to you.
United by Rice, united by Ben.
Yes. Yeah, there we go. I love it. Well, first of all, it's nice to meet you. You're having quite the moment. But what do you think
Um,
is happening for you in your career where you're becoming like the go-to, 20 something or young, kind of teenage Asian actor?
um, I don't know if I'm the go-to. I think there's a couple of not certainly not a lot, and
Yeah.
enough to count on one hand. But I think there's a couple of us that are currently occupying the space. But I don't know. I attribute a big part of it to luck. I think. There's something about the fact that the writers and the people who are making these films, when they write these characters, they just so happen to be picturing or writing characters that match my personal sensibilities as an actor and as a person, and
Hmm.
that's totally just luck, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the other part is the mere fact that we live in a time now where there are writers and producers and directors who are making films about young Asian Americans. That's another thing altogether, and that's new. And the other
Yeah.
new thing is people who aren't Asian Americans making, or maybe are, but making media that were not necessarily about Asian Americans. But then when I come along and I show who I am as a person, they're like, yeah, I want that. I don't care if,
Yeah.
if he's, white, black, Asian, or purple. Like that humanity is what I wanted in this character. And that's also new. So all three of these things, I think, work in conjunction um, to, to help me have the career that I have now. I'm
Oh,
very
and
grateful for all of it.
yeah, that's well said. Well, that pivots to the movie Brian, where you play Brian Ballard,
Yeah.
right? And you've got, Randall Park as your father. You've
Yeah.
got, and it's actually, I don't think really there's not really time spent explaining why your brother looks full Asian, why you're full Asian, why your dad looks full Asian, and your mother doesn't seemingly any Asian.
Yeah.
But to your point, it doesn't. It
That doesn't
seems
really
like
matter
this
to this
film could
film,
have been
right? Yeah.
anybody,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And that's what I
Yeah.
love is that, oh, an Asian kid can embody anybody and any man. I think that's important too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Well, most people wouldn't have seen this film, so I'll probably kind of work backwards in the
Sure.
type of questions I would normally ask. But what drew you to this story? What drew you? You said it earlier. There's a lot of stories that have been written about these type of characters, but
Yeah.
you also, with films like The Long Walk, I'm sure you're getting a lot of scripts thrown at you. What drew you to this particular story and this character?
I'm not, first of all, I'm not getting that many scripts thrown at me.
All right, we'll get you more. We'll get you more.
Yeah, yeah. So no, but to like the question you're asking, so part of it is that the fact that they came forward with this script. It was an
Mm,
audition at first. It was, cold audition.
okay,
They weren't, offering it to me. I auditioned for the part, and then they came back and said, we would like you, we want to hire you for the part. And that is when I started thinking about, that's when you start thinking about, like, do you want to do it? And for me, the driving factors for why I wanted to do it was um, one, actually, a big one was William H. Macy was already attached, and I really wanted to
sure.
work with him. He's kind of a hero of mine. I'm from Minnesota, so he's like a state
Yeah,
hero over
sure.
there, He's like,
Is that because mostly because of Fargo, I'm assuming?
yeah, yes.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah, that's great.
required watching. That's like,
Yes.
that's like Minnesota's Forrest Gump, That's
Yeah.
Mighty Ducks and Fargo that's the only two we have. And
Yeah.
June, if you want to dig that much deeper. But
Mm,
so I want to work with him. And the other part was that when I saw the script, I felt like the film could have been made one of two different ways. I feel like one way that it could have been made was like as sort of a more broad comedy, as
mm,
like a more played for laughs, anything for the laugh, that kind of comedy, right? Like a Adam
sure.
Sandler or Steve Carell, that kind of comedy, which I love. But the
Sure.
potential that I saw in the script was for something more sensitive and
Mm,
um, more yeah, I guess sensitive,
yeah.
more sensitive to the experience of the character and to the reality of the character. I want to do it very truthfully. And when I
Hmm.
met with Will Ropp, the director, and he told me about what he wanted to do, and also when he told me about the DP that he wanted, which was Matt Pothia, and I knew some of
Mm,
his work. Like he doesn't make teen comedies really. He makes really like beautiful, intricate, sort of sensitive films that are shot very naturally but beautifully. I was like,
sure.
oh, okay. That's when like I was like, I feel like they want to make the same movie that I want to make.
Mm.
And yeah,
And the character Brian, I don't think it's ever really stated what type of mental, he's not labeled as, oh, he's this or this or this. We
yeah,
just really know he, under stress, has these freakouts they call.
yeah.
Um, is it intentional that it's not really talked about? And without that kind of definition around it, how did you actually shape it? Like, what did you look for in terms of inspirations to kind of shape not just Brian as an overall character, but then those moments where he did have, his
Yeah.
freakouts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think this is would be a better question for the director and the writer especially. Um, because they had to work through
Sure.
many iterations of the script, and from what I understand, they definitely did consult with like psychologists and
Hmm.
um about you know the things that could be happening to Brian and what
Sure.
he might be going through. And I think I would have to assume, and again, this is probably a better question to ask them, that
Sure.
at the end of the day, they found it more useful to the storytelling to not make it explicit.
Sure.
But in that case, just only I have to know, right? Only I, the
Hmm.
actor doing this character, I just have to be very specific about what it is that he's going through, like what his triggers are, and what kind of physiological things happen when he does it,
Mm,
when it does happen, right? And that just comes from reading and
mm,
researching and yeah, like you said, you know,
yeah.
text and
Well,
interviews and yeah, talking with with people who have these types of conditions.
and maybe to your point, talking to the directors and writers, I might get this sense, but my interpretation is it normalized Brian, right? And in reality, even your other running the election, like your competition, have their quirks as well,
Yeah,
right? So, in whether it's mental health or just being a teenager in America, it
right,
felt like it wasn't trying to make the case. It wasn't trying to say anything about,
right. This
Brian's. Yeah,
ultimately, I feel like this movie isn't about mental illness,
exactly.
right?
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
a movie about growing up today. This is
yeah.
just kind of a Gen Z coming of age story. I think of it as like Gen Z Charlie Brown,
Sure.
where it's
Yeah.
like, sort of about the like a kid who has a really hard time growing up, and part of that may be that he has, that he has something that he has to see a therapist and take medicine for. But in like you said, in the film, and one thing I think that they were very that Will, the director, was very keen on was that Brian never gets bullied for his like
Hmm.
mental illness. Like he doesn't get bullied. Nobody is like you're a freak. The person who says you're a freak is himself.
Hmm.
It's his
Hmm.
own anxieties about who he is and how he projects to the outside world. And his sort of blindness to the fact that actually everybody is pretty much okay with who he is and they are totally willing to accept him. He just needs to accept himself first. And
Sure.
that's the journey of the story, right?
Sure. No, that makes perfect sense. And yeah, I want to go back to William Macy. You talked about wanting to work with him. Did all of your scenes get shot just in like one couple days? Because you just
Yeah.
have those few scenes together.
Yeah, it was one day. It was awesome.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
like it was one day. Like we started. I don't even think we started like a little late, and we still wrapped up before dinner time, and then we went out for a drink. Like that was like, I'm like, damn,
Uh,
this like that felt good. Like we went in and we just like ripped it, and those scenes are so much fun, and they're some of my favorite ones in the movie. Um,
yeah.
yeah, that was a blast. That was a great time.
And as I watched them, I almost thought, is he improving? I was thinking of William. Is like, is he just waiting to actually listen what you say, and then he's just going to have his, kind of improv
Yes,
reaction?
there was a lot of I was doing a lot of improving.
Ah,
So
how fun.
I was throwing in a lot of stuff, and yes, what he would just like basically be like, okay,
Yeah. Yeah. I
it's
mean,
so good. Yeah,
the net runtime of those scenes is probably like 8 minutes, but they're just brilliant. Like they're so fun.
yeah,
Um, you talked about the tonal balance between, the comedic parts, and the film is really funny. Like it's very snappy. The dialogue's very quick, but then there is this sensibility to the film. Did you do you I feel like that's almost a defining characteristic of a lot of roles you play. Is this something that you've in terms of training as an actor, where did that comedic timing and that talent come from?
Well, I mean, my North Star as an actor is always like truth
Mm,
and a dedication to doing something that's truthful. I don't ever want to do something that's contrived, that's done for the sake of acting or for the sake truly of comedy or making a joke. I
mhm.
want everything to always be centered around doing something that like is authentically human. I think that like I feel a deep responsibility as an actor to do that because I think that is one of the greatest goods an actor can do is to show like truthful humanity to other people and pieces of humanity that other people might not have thought about before they watched this movie or that movie. So
Sure.
that's what I center everything on. And I've found that if you focus on that, you don't even have to think about the comedy. You don't even have to think about how do I time it right or how do I be funny. The timing
Hmm.
will just happen to work out because comedic timing really is just our audience's recognition of something truthful happening. Like that gap is funny because there's something that feels true about it. So
Mm,
it's building the other way around. You build it
sure.
internally and you live in it and you try to build an environment where you can sort of play in a way that's authentic, and then
Hmm.
everything else actually by accident almost. And I think that's that spontaneity, that sort of feeling that it's very real is it's very important to me as an actor. And that
Mm,
did come from many years of training and thinking about what it is that I
mm.
do.
Well, it's great. Like I said, you kind of at the beginning of the film, it's pretty clear what the film is going to generally about, but I didn't expect to laugh out loud as much as I did. And of course, you get to work with the great Randall Park, and
Yes.
there's one scene where he just says, "And I'm bisexual," and I laugh for a
Yeah.
good like 30 seconds because it's just like scene cut right there.
Yeah. Trust me, we on set laughed longer than that.
It
That scene
was,
at the dinner table, by the way, that scene at the dinner table we were supposed to shoot it in like one afternoon. It ended up taking 2 days just because we were like throwing out so much, just Randall and Edie Patterson were just throwing out so much like good shit. Like
yeah.
the rest of us was like holding on for dear life and and I was like, be truthful, be real, be real.
Yeah. There's so many good moments in this film. The one of the things that also struck me about the film was I want to make sure I don't give spoilers away. So maybe I'll kind of enter into this way. The moment where I think we're meant as an audience to understand that Brian has kind of gotten over that fear of who he is and that people won't didn't like him
Yeah,
for whether it's the freakouts or one like you said you were the only one that was calling yourself a freak
yeah.
um in your own life like what have there been moments in your life that you can really sympathize with Brian in that moment as you were growing up trying to become an actor for instance.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the only difference between how it happens in real life and how it happens in a movie like Brian is in real life it's much slower, it's much more
Mhm.
iterative, right? In a movie, you can cut from, one moment to the next. You skip about, 2 days of him sitting in his bedroom thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
In real life, you have to live through those 2 days or 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years or 20 years. Um, so, you can make sort of a thematic moment out of it in a film, but in real life, I don't think they're encapsulated in moments. I think they happen over the course of weeks and months and years. And sometimes there's a catalyst, and for me, those catalysts that I think about are almost always great teachers, um, good
Mm.
mentors who believed in me before even I believed in me. And the fact that I met those people at certain key points in my life, I attribute that entirely to luck. And that's why I feel like a very lucky person. Because without those
Mm.
people, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be talking to you
Well,
about this.
I'm sure luck plays a role, but you've got an amazing amount of talent behind you too. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, Ben. We're
Yeah.
united by rice. We ask everyone, like, what is your favorite rice dish? Like after a long shoot, you're craving something that tastes like home.
My favorite rice dish.
Hmm.
My favorite rice is white rice, like steamed white rice. My grandpa in Beijing when I was growing up, he used to just eat that. I thought it was
Ah,
crazy. He literally just a bowl of white rice, man. I'm like, you have like a gluten deficiency or something like that. He's like, no, it's delicious. But I like just pure flavorless like white rice that's a little bit moist. Like I like a little bit moister. You know, it's
Half extra cup of water
a
in
little
the
bit
rice
more water,
cooker.
a little bit
Yeah,
more water. Yeah, a
yeah,
little, and then some sort of like saucy stir fry. Like a
got it.
tomato egg or like,
Yeah,
something with a little more sauce. And those two
yeah.
together, I could eat that forever.
Yeah, yeah. It's actually our most common answers. It's rice with like egg or a little chili oil or something
Yeah,
like that. So it's a pleasure meeting you. Hopefully I'll get to see you at South by.
pleasure's all mine. Yeah,
Congratulations.
hope I'll see you there. Take
All
care.
right, thank you.
Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye bye. It's Ben with United by Rice. It's nice to talk to you.
Good to talk to you.
I feel like I'm speaking to one of our legends in the Asian American space. Um, I know we're just a few nights off of the Unforgettable Awards, and I'd love to
Yes.
hear what that experience was like for you.
It was fun. It was really fun. It was I don't go every year to those awards, so when I do, it always feels like a reunion for me, just in terms of seeing like so many friends in the community and yeah, just being a part of the celebration and the acknowledgement of folks in the community. It's very special. So yeah, I had a blast.
Sure, I'll have one question on it because it is going to air on Golden TV, so
Mhm.
people can still see this. But the magician Kevin Lee like blew me away. I have to ask, were you at all? Did you know ahead of time that he'd pull you up on stage? Was that all just
No.
improvised? Amazing.
I had no idea. It was very surreal. It was very surreal, and a part of me was like, so. A part of me was a little confused while I was up there because I was just so blown away by like everything, and then
Yeah,
he kept like throwing more stuff at us, more reveals and more. And a part of me was just like, "What is happening? This is insane."
yeah.
But yeah, it was great. It was fun.
Well, your reaction was great because you were like, "I'm still trying to process the bear."
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
amazing.
exactly. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, we're obviously here to talk about the film Brian. It's a lovely film. Um, I, I, I know from previous interviews you've talked about your own daughter being on the spectrum, so that's
hmm
kind of my guess as to what drew you to this script and this material. But I'd love for you to expand on that.
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely a big part of it. Playing a parent of somebody of a child with some very unique challenges. That's something I could definitely identify with, and also just the unconditional love that the parent has for that child, and um, those were all things that really resonated with me just from my daughter.
Mm. I think when we see shows or films where it's largely an Asian family, you almost expect like the parents to be a certain way in the of course your show fresh off the boat, right? There's like a expectation of maybe some tiger mom immigrant uh
Hmm
you know generational trauma stuff, but really the what we see of how you approach Brian in the film, Brian of course played by Ben Wang or Ben Wong, um is it's not controlling, it's very not quite hands off, but it's very just empathetic and fun.
hmm
I'd love to hear how much of that you might have influenced based on what you've learned about being a parent of a child on the spectrum as well.
I think a lot of it was there in the script, and that was another thing that really excited me about playing the character was it was kind of this take on a father that I haven't really gotten to play anyone quite like this guy, I mean,
Mm.
he's a very kind of peculiar character, but but ultimately he really does love his son, and uh, I don't know, to be honest with you, I don't know if the character was originally written as an
Mm.
Asian American character, and but it didn't. But when I found out that Ben was playing Brian, and I was to play his dad, it really, I thought this is so cool. This is so
Mm.
cool because, um, regardless of who it was written for, it just felt like an opportunity to expand on the scope of what it means to be an Asian American parent. you know,
Hmm.
an Asian American person who's going through a very unique thing, that we haven't seen before uh, depicted on screen, or at least I haven't.
Hmm.
When it comes to folks who look like us. So it all felt like, uh, you know, groundbreaking in some way for me.
You've played a dad though many times, like, and you've
Hmm.
worked with children actors so often. Yeah, I guess we don't really call Ben a child, but young
Hmm.
actors.
Hmm.
And what do you do, or what have you, what approach do you take when you work with younger actors and making sure? Because I assume you don't, in a film like this, have a ton of time to rehearse, but there's
Mm-mm.
really good chemistry between you and all the family members. How do you help kind of shape that, given your experience?
I think a lot of it is luck, to be
Mm,
honest with you. Like the chemistry is, thankfully everyone in this family, in this movie at least, they're very talented,
mhm,
but on top of that, they're just really like great people, and there was an ease to just being around them, even outside of the set. And we did a lot of hanging out together and had
mm,
dinners, but it wasn't because we felt like we had to do that for our characters, or for the story. It was just we genuinely just liked each other,
mm,
so we would hang out. But that's not always the case, and when it's not the case, you just, uh uh you get to know each other as much as you can, and find an understanding of each other and the way we work, and you just act,
mm,
but here there was definitely an ease to it all that allowed us to be loose and to play a lot. There was a lot of
mm.
improvisation and a lot of just trust in each other.
I was going to ask about whether there was a lot of improvisation because the dialogue is really snappy at times. So given
Yeah.
that you didn't have a lot of time to rehearse, I had to imagine that you might have just been coming up with a lot of that on the fly. It's quite
Yeah.
brilliant.
And I think Will really let us play, which is
Mm,
not usually the case, especially for an independent movie where there's limited time and limited, you kind of got to keep things moving, limited
mhm,
budget. But I think you have someone like Edie Patterson, and I have an improv background, and it
mhm,
just he felt like it was something that would help the film to give us
mm,
some time to just mess around, and so we really took advantage of that. And I think he probably has so much extra footage that never made it, just because we went on every tangent, and really really got silly. But a lot of it did make it into the film too, which is fun.
yeah. Well, I actually mentioned to him what I thought was your best line when you just dropped, and I'm bisexual, after asking
Oh
his
yeah.
friend
Oh,
about his
that's
favorite
right.
movies. And he said that scene took like a couple days to shoot because you guys were just having so much fun. And
Yes, that's right. Yeah, yeah. He really let us go. Will, our great director, really let us go.
Mm,
So we were just like, I mean, we were off to the races, just getting very silly, and
yeah.
playing off of each other. It was great fun.
Well, the that line, in fact, maybe reflects what you said earlier, that this character you got to play was more peculiar than others you've probably played, and yet we don't see
Mhm.
that much, right? We see just kind of an interesting family dy You just look at the family, you're like, oh, what's going on? It's never really explained, but you've got like two Asian
Yeah, which I
sons, but
love too. It's not
yeah,
explained.
yeah.
Yeah.
Did you create any type of backstory in your head, or was there a backstory written to kind of at least shape how you would play the character?
Not really. Not really. I think I just kind of took what was there, and maybe in my head just kind of filled it in a little bit, in terms of the kind of person he is, um but outside of that, it was really just kind of there in the writing, and
Hmm.
also informed by working off of the other actors and seeing how they played their characters. And I mean, in my head, this was just the family.
Mm.
This was the family. Uh, a mother and a father and two boys with no real kind of nothing really on top of that.
Yeah.
Just that. That's how I had it in my head.
Yeah. Um, well, the we've talked about it. The movie is very funny, and I
Mhm.
found myself laughing all the time. But there is, of course, a very serious tone to it, and uh, I'd love to maybe just kind of hear from you what you hope audiences take away from it once they start seeing this on the 14th and beyond.
I hope that audiences just it just expands on the humanity of folks who are different, and folks who folks who we may find a bit challenging at times, that it expands on our own empathy for these people who are different, and in that way, and in that very small way, making the world a better place, which
Hmm.
I think it should be the goal of, I mean, it doesn't have to be the goal of all art, but at least for me, that's what I'm most interested in, things that kind of help expand what it means to be human, um, and if it could do that for Asian Americans as well, that's even better for me,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I just hope that this movie does that for audiences.
Um, I refer to you as one of our legends in Asian American screens. Ben Wang. And does he go by? I should have asked him. He probably goes by Wong.
I don't
Um,
know. Yeah.
he's having a moment. He's been in a lot of big roles recently. Um,
Yeah.
I'm just kind of thinking back to your days of Fresh Off the Boat. That series ran for several years, but the last couple of years we've had a number of Asian-led shows not get renewed, right? Even Daniel Day Kim's show didn't get renewed. Like, what do
That's
you
right.
think? I guess maybe two questions. One, why do you think Fresh Off the Boat resonated so well with audiences? But what do you think we need to do in order to, be get some of these stories not just made, but to stick a little bit more?
hmm That's a good question. I do think that a lot of Fresh Off the Boat success, there were a number of factors for it, and some of them were very much things that we could control, and some of them were things that, timing and just the right thing happening at just the right time, and the little window or little crack that we were somehow able to kind of break through, and every season is like another kind of you're tasked again with kind of just getting through those cracks to make it to the next season.
Hmm.
Uh, that was often at least the case for our show. It wasn't like a hands down, like this is definitely coming back. This is definitely coming. I mean, there were maybe a few seasons where it felt like it was definitely coming back, but it's always a struggle, and I feel like I think right now the climate is different, in terms of just TV. Um, the administration is different, the
Hmm.
general kind of priorities are different. So I think all of that plays into it. On top of, the the things that we can control, which I think that's the only thing we can really do is try to get our stories out there,
Hmm.
try to be as honest as we can with those stories while also like um being making them as entertaining as possible, and I think like just keep getting those up to bats. I think
Hmm.
that that's like the only way is to just keep not quitting in attempting to get these shows made, you know.
Yeah,
And eventually things just make it through somehow, you know, they just find their way. And if we're lucky, those things will become big enough to grant us more seasons and more
sure,
seasons. But that's a hard thing to do for any show.
sure.
So I think for us, it's just kind of we just gotta keep doing it, you know, and
Yeah, keep filling the funnel. Yeah,
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 yeah, and not letting trends or the climate or the you know politics or whatever, not letting that deter us from pushing and
sure.
uh, yeah, I think that's the only thing we could control, you know, and
Yeah. That makes sense. Well, I
yeah.
got one last question for you because we're united by rice. We do ask everybody, like, what's your favorite long shoot? You're tired, you need some comfort food. What's your favorite rice dish or rice-based dish?
Oh my God. Um, that's a tough one because there's so many. I would say like just a bowl of white rice, like the one behind you in the
Uh,
backdrop, and a stew, a Korean like jjigae.
mm,
I mean, that's not a right. I'm cheating a little bit,
no, it's
but
okay.
that would be it.
Yeah,
That
rice
would
is
be
more
it.
of a vehicle for this good sauces and Asian food anyway, I feel like. So
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
works. That works. That's great.
yeah,
I did say last question, but I'd love to know
yeah.
how many times a week do you get someone yells at you, "Hey, Jim Halpert," because that's the first role I actually remember you in.
You know, it doesn't happen that much
Uh,
anymore, but there was a meme that just like came out today.
oh, really?
Today or yesterday that's really blowing up online. And I know this because I several people have sent it to me. But it's an Asian gym related thing. And so it's still out there
Yeah,
amazingly after like how many years, you know, of that scene in The Office. It's still going.
yeah.
But people, yeah, people do recognize me from that. But I'm not getting people calling me Asian Jim as much anymore.
You should have got residuals on that.
I know, I know.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, good luck. I know you've got a couple projects at South by, but I'm very excited for people to see Brian. It's a wonderful film.
Thanks, Ben. Thank you, man.
So we'll first talk about Brian.
Great.
Um, I know most people haven't seen the film, so I don't want to give too much away. So maybe we'll just kind of start with what drew you to the script and the project, how you became involved.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think when I read the script from the very beginning, I was very drawn to, I think, how specific it was.
Yeah.
Um, Both in the sense that like the story was very specific, but I think every character was so well developed, which I think is rare that you see. You know, I think most scripts that I read or films that I watch, the protagonist is well developed, you know, and has lots of layers and contradictions and nuances, and then everyone around them kind of fits squarely into a box, a stereotypical box. And I think this film really breaks out of a lot of that. You know, the person that you would think would be like the new unpopular kid isn't that,
Mhm.
you know, and the person
Mhm.
that you would think is just like the popular jerk isn't necessarily that. And you know, so I think sort of breaking down all of those molds was something that I was really intrigued by. And then after having read the script, I met with Will, the director, and I think it really was his passion for the project and
Mhm.
just excitement and drive when it came to the story and the characters is what kind of made me feel like I had to be involved, so that I just really wanted to help him execute his vision, because his energy about the project was just so infectious.
We'll definitely come back to the story, but maybe you can tell us, without giving too much away, more about your character and how she fits into the larger story.
Yeah, so my character is like a very random girl. She's a little bit all over the place. She's very passionate about drama. Her boyfriend is running to be the senior class president, and she's sort of like running his campaign. And she has a little bit of a journey in terms of going from this person in a relationship to sort of realizing who this person is that she's dating.
Right.
And so yeah, she's kind of a quirky oddball who says some crazy things. But it was really fun getting to kind of flesh her character out and uh, yeah, I guess like develop her into a hopefully um, full dynamic person.
Well, and to that, right, sometimes playing a supporting role can be tricky because you have to establish the character very quickly, right? How did you approach building that character in a relatively short amount of screen time?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think for me, I guess I feel like the process exists a lot in just like your own conception of who the person is, you know,
Hmm.
because in life we meet a lot of people that like come in and go out, and even though they're not a huge part of our stories, they're still entire human beings. And so I think for me, the crux of the like process is in developing that whole person, even if it's just for myself, you know, so that those moments
Hmm.
that she is on screen, it's not just, oh, she's in the scene to like drive this thing or to make this joke or whatever, but that she is like a whole person that exists sort of in this fleeting moment.
Well, and to that, you've done a lot of series work before, but to your point, we don't get much of the backstory. We do see that evolution because I think, like you said, you could have just been maybe like the mean girl, but you don't end up being that. And I'm curious, what was some of the kind of notes you wrote for yourself or the backstory you wrote for yourself that we don't really ever get to see? But let's say there were a second movie and the focus was on your character, what might we see?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like it starts with like taking the things that are present in the script, right? So like her loving drama, you know, like what does
Hmm.
that mean to her, right? The idea of like, oh, maybe she like grew up loving and being a part of like school productions of things, and she wants to be an actor and she wants to move to New York and do theater, you know, and so like
Hmm.
why does the theater program at school mean that much to her, right? And then another component being, why is she dating this horrible guy? Does she not know better? Is she horrible herself? You know, and so like I think figuring out, oh, she is kind of attracted to this idea of power, or being connected to him allows her to get these other things that she wants, right? And then figuring out, well, so she's established herself in relation to this person because of a desire to make things happen that she wants to happen, but how far is she willing to go, you know, with that? And so I think that was also a conversation with Will of, it was important to me for her to have some sort of conclusion, right? That it's not just she's this terrible person and her boyfriend gets up on stage and says these horrible things and she's just like, great, you know, like that's my
Hmm.
guy, you know. And for her to even like a quick moment of like, oh yeah, that's not what's going to happen anymore. I'm not associating with that anymore. Like that was really important for me. So I think there are a lot of different ways of going about it, but for me it was a lot in kind of her motivations and her what was inspiring her, and also kind of finding the edges of her morality, right? So like
Hmm.
what was a deal breaker? Um, I think were some of the things that I was focused on.
Yeah. Do you find it hard to create like a completely fictional character, or do you actually draw from people in your real life? You don't obviously have to name people that might have inspired this character, but do you start from scratch, or do you actually draw from people that you've met or people you've seen on screen?
Yeah, I mean, I think like at least for me, there is no starting from scratch. You know, everyone that I play is a combination of me, everyone I've ever met, everything I've ever watched, you know,
Yeah.
and the material itself. So I would say it's kind of definitely this like pastiche of a lot of things, um, that I think is what makes a person, you know, at least when I watch other performances, what makes them feel dynamic is that you see yourself in them, or you see your neighbor in them, or your friend in them, or the person you like the least in your life in them, you know. And so I think sort of puzzle piecing all of those experiences both in the real world and also movies that I've watched or things that I've seen, they all kind of play into, I think, building characters.
Hmm. Well, on United by Rice, we talk a lot about how your background and your culture kind of shapes, the stories that you like to tell or be a part of. Not only you being Hapa or half Asian, but also your father being an actor. Like when you were growing up, first of all, I'll start with the question about your dad. He grew up in an era where roles for Asians weren't easy to come by. Did he ever like tell you, "Hey, Peyton, I love acting, but this is going to be hard. Are you sure you want to do this?" Did he ever try to stop you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't say that he tried to stop me because of the component of the added difficulty of being Asian American or biracial, but for sure, no matter what, acting and all creative careers come with a lot of adversity and a lot of
Sure.
rejection. And I think that especially having an ethnic background, um, it adds to that, and I think it added to my dad's experience far more than it adds to mine. And hopefully it adds to mine far more than it'll add to my kids,
Hmm.
in whatever area that they want to go into. But I think that, yeah, he was definitely anti me acting because of that, because I was a little girl and the amount of like, you're not right, you're not this enough, you're not that enough, which then like eventually becomes a you're not white enough, you're not Asian enough
Hmm.
conversation. That's a lot to put on a little kid. And I think that he was very protective of that when it came to me.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting. I was talking to a director recently and about trying to find an actress who is a generation older than you, like in their, maybe 40s,
Mhm.
that could come across as mixed Asian. And as we were going through the list of actors, the list is quite short, right?
Mhm.
Like, back then it was very hard for Asians in general, but mixed Asians too. So I'm curious, what are you seeing in terms of the industry today in 2026 and the type of opportunities that you're given? Do you find it helpful to be kind of racially ambiguous, or do you actually think it's more challenging?
I think that's a complicated question because I guess I don't have anything to compare it to.
Hmm.
Because I haven't tried to have an acting career, a generation before me. I don't know, I guess, what the changes have looked like.
Yeah.
I
But
would
even for you, like, how do you feel today
Yeah.
when you're pursuing different roles? Do you ever feel like you're being put in a specific box, and by being in that box, it's helping or hurting you?
Yeah. I mean, I would say I think definitely. I think that those boxes still exist and they exist in kind of a different way than they have in past. I think there's this interesting culture right now that I think is a bit of an overcorrection in a sense,
Mm,
um, of specific representation, because
sure.
I think we came from a place of like, oh, like it doesn't matter. The story's about an Asian girl. We'll put in a white girl. Who cares, right? Which was
Yeah.
obviously wrong and harmful in so many ways. I think now we're in a space of the person playing the role has to be exactly what the character is, right? Like
Right. Like
their,
Korean
their
or
exact
Vietnamese.
ethnic
Yep. Yep.
background and not only their heritage, but where they were from and where they were born. And I think it has, in a sense, made things harder and more difficult in a lot of ways, and I
Mm,
think done some damage as well. And I think it comes from a good place of wanting to promote accurate representation, but I think it also puts you in different boxes now. There are still these boxes,
sure.
different boxes, right? And
Yeah.
so I think that's a challenge. And I also think there is still the challenge of being biracial, of you're not what is traditionally seen as being Asian, and you're not what is traditionally being seen as white. And so you fit into this like middle ground. And because you're only allowed to play exactly what you are, the opportunities for a very specific version of a half Chinese, half white, born and raised in America, only speaks English. It's like it's a very specific box. And so I think there are more opportunities in a way and also
Yeah.
less.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think Daniel Day Kim recently had similar comments that kind of blew up in social media. And I actually think it's great to have like that specific representation, but there need to be enough stories being told that cover all those different variants, if we call them, the different types of because we just more scripts are being written for Chinese, Korean, Japanese, but not necessarily mixed backgrounds or Southeast Asian. So when we get to that point, then I think we can get picky because I'd love to see everyone get lots of work, but I don't
Right.
think we're quite there yet. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
I think it's a complicated thing,
yeah,
that I
for
think you can
sure.
look at and see very, very different sides of.
Yeah. Well, you kind of fit a very nostalgic place in my world because Doogie Howser, when I was growing up, was like I used to wait for those couple minutes when he's typing in his computer, and that was like my Shakespeare. It was like, oh,
Aw,
these poignant moments growing up. So I really loved you and the kind of remake of Doogie Howser, and it was great to
thank
see
you.
representation there. I have a funny question for you. When I was watching the film Brian, there were a couple moments where I was looking at you and was like, Phoebe Cates came into my head. Tell me how many times you've heard that before.
A lot. A
Yes,
lot.
I
Yeah.
thought so. Could it be
Yeah.
just me? So, all right.
No, no,
Yeah,
yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
yeah. Because people my age, like she was kind of that mixed background, rare
Right.
actress, but you actually more than that have like a lot of similarity to her and what she looked like. On United by Rice, every guest we ask one final question, which is, after a long shoot, you're tired, you're craving comfort food. What is your favorite rice or favorite go-to dish, rice noodle dish, etc.?
Ooh, that's so difficult. Because there are
If you
so
come on
many.
again, you could change your
I'll say
answer.
something different. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I guess I would say sushi.
Okay. Yep. And is
Yeah.
there a particular type of fish?
There is this specific place actually in Hawaii,
Mm,
um, called Ahi and Vegetable in the Ala Moana Mall. And it's yellowtail. It's
okay.
hamachi
Yeah.
on rice and vegetables, and that's it. And it's so good. And and
Perfect.
and after a long day on set, that's all I would want.
Yeah, and very accessible too. So I know exactly
Yes.
where that is. So
Yes.
wonderful.
Yes, you'll
It
have
was
to
a
go.
pleasure. It was a pleasure to meet you. You've got two films there, Pizza and Brine. So congratulations. Good luck. Hope to see you there. And thank
Thank
you
you
for
so
joining
much.
us.
Nice to meet you.
Cheers.
Bye.